Hate speech in the heart of the capital. Filthy slogans raised 2 kilometers from Parliament. After FIR against unknown people, Delhi cops arrest 6. FIR under sections 153A and 188 of IPC. Why no sedition charge slapped under section 124A? Inflammatory slogans at Jantar Mantar. Isn't this incitement to violence?
Good evening. You're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Choudhary. The date, viewers, was the 8th of August. The venue was Jantar Mantar, which is about 1.5 kilometers from the Parliament. The event, the organisers say, was a protest against colonial laws. What went down was open bigotry. Many people, it wasn't 1, 2, 3, but a huge group, a mob of people came together and they chanted communal slogans. To be very precise, anti-Muslim slogans that we or any other channel cannot air because they were that derogatory. Now, the action taken first, the Delhi police registered an FIR against unknown people, even though the visuals of the people were very much there. Then, today, they made 6 arrests, but they've charged them under sections which have nothing to do with sedition. One of the biggest reasons sedition is used, sometimes misused as well, is because the police perceive that somebody has tried to incite violence. We can safely say that the slogans raised at Jantar Mantar on the 8th of August was a call to take to arms. Why isn't there a sedition charge is what we're going to ask this evening.
A hate rally in the heart of the capital. A mob caught on camera shouting divisive anti-Muslim slogans on Sunday. The slogans were so offensive that we were forced to mute out the audio. And now, 2 days later, Delhi police has arrested 6 for the hate rants, including BJP leader Ashwini Upadhyay. The accused were first detained for grilling. But the arrest triggered high drama as protesters tried to storm the Connaught Place police station. Chased out by cops, they then staged a road roko in support of the accused.
इसको भी अच्छा से खबर छापिए कि जो है वो उन लोगों को गिरफ्तार करके ले जा रही है पुलिस।
हमने एक FIR दर्ज किया था 8 तारीख को। उसमें एक पर्टिकुलर संप्रदाय है, उसके खिलाफ कुछ टिप्पणियां कुछ लोगों ने की थी। इस तरह का एक वीडियो सामने आया था। वीडियो को भी हमने एग्जामिन किया और बाकी जो फर्दर इन्वेस्टिगेशन वगैरह जो हमने किया, उसके बाद 6 लोगों का इस केस में हमने अरेस्ट डाला है।
The BJP leader, however, claims that he has had no role in the hate mongering, distancing himself from the slogan shoutings.
कार्यक्रम वहाँ 1 घंटे चला। 1 घंटे के बाद जैसे वहाँ भीड़ आने लगी, पुलिस ने कहा कि क्राउड आ रही है, आप कार्यक्रम खत्म कर दीजिए। हम सब लोग मन छोड़ के चले गए। उसके बाद वहाँ कोई आता है, कोई कुछ बयान देता है, कोई वीडियो जारी करता है। इसलिए सबसे पहले मैंने ही बोला था कि आप तत्काल वीडियो की सत्यता जांच कर लीजिए।
A manhunt has now been launched against the other suspects seen in the video, including the man wearing saffron. Meanwhile, Hindu Raksha Dal chief Preeti Choudhary owned up to the event.
अगर किसी बच्चे ने कोई गलत किया है तो वो सरकार को माफ़ कर देना चाहिए, क्योंकि ऐसी भीड़ में कहीं से भी कोई भी आ जाता है, कोई भी कह देता है। और हिंदू रक्षा दल जिम्मेदारी लेता है, जो भी लोग वहाँ थे वो हमारे थे।
The hate rally triggered political backlash in Delhi.
आज से दिल्ली की कानून व्यवस्था नहीं संभलती और इसीलिए बार बार हम कहते हैं कि चुनी हुई सरकार है, उसके हाथ में कानून व्यवस्था दीजिए, उसके हाथ में लैंड दीजिए, उसके हाथ में सर्विसेज दीजिए। हर चीज अपने हाथ में रखना चाहती है केंद्र सरकार और हर चीज को बर्बाद करना चाहती है जो उनके हाथ में है।
The incident highlights deeply divisive fault lines in the capital, which saw deadly communal riots just last year. With Arvind Ojha and Shreya Chatterjee, Bureau Report, India Today.
So that's the question, viewers. The Delhi police has been very trigger happy of slapping the sedition charge of late. We're going to give you that entire list in just the last 1 year alone, where all the Delhi police has used the sedition charge. Isn't it interesting and intriguing that the Delhi police in this very case, after making 6 arrests, hasn't looked at the sedition charge at all? Let's cut across to our panelists this evening. I have Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court; Yashowardhan Azad, former IPS officer; Desh Ratan Nigam, advocate and political analyst. Mr. Azad, I'd want to come to you for somebody, who's been an enforcer of the law, and we're going to give out the entire list. There seems to be a selective sedition charge which the Delhi police has looked at. Somebody like a Disha Ravi has faced sedition. You've had Pinjara Tod activists who have not just faced sedition but been charged under the UAPA as well. It's bizarre because you make these 6 arrests where not just 6 of them, a huge mob of them, the slogans "we can't air" because they are that inflammatory, are clearly calling to arms towards a certain set, of religion. Why no sedition here, sir?
Well, I agree. The sedition charge has been imposed selectively by Delhi police. I have been strongly against the charge which was imposed by the Delhi police on Disha Ravi and the other activists, whether it's the UAPA or whether it's the Sedition Act. And similarly, due to the Delhi police standards which it applies, yes, sedition should have been employed here too. But as far as I'm concerned, the sedition charge does not apply in such cases. 153A is the right section which has been imposed. It is a non-bailable section. There should be NDMA Act 2 and also the violation of the directives of the state. Unfortunately, Preeti, the most important thing is the moment this thing was going on without permission, without any support from anywhere, and without any intimation to the Delhi police, the moment these inflammatory slogans were being raised, they should have been immediately caught and the situation would have been brought under control. Unfortunately, the police waited, and now it is extremely unfortunate because it was there were unnamed people in the FIR, whereas in the video recordings, etc., it is very, very clear that the people involved are the known leaders, and they, in fact, they have been named. So time has come when they should be immediately arrested. And because it's a non-bailable section, it's good enough to be prosecuted.
All right. Sir, I want to cut across to Desh Ratan Nigam as well. Mr. Nigam, of course, there's that argument that sedition needs to be abolished, and it doesn't apply not here, it doesn't apply in any of the cases, or at least most of the cases that the Delhi police has used it in the last 1 year. But because they have used it on, say, a Disha Ravi, they've used it on activists, a Kanhaiya Kumar, a Dr. Kafil for making one speech. Good for the goose, good for the gander. If you can use sedition against them, then why not against these 6 people?
Preeti, let me be very, very the section before jumping to or coming to any conclusion. Now, 124A is very clear that this violence or disaffection has to be against the duly elected government, not per se against any religion. For offences like these in the domain of religion, 153A is the appropriate answer. Now, so far as Disha Ravi's and other cases are concerned, the case of the Delhi police is that the disaffection was against the government. Now, if anybody is dissatisfied with this, they can go for quashing of the charge sheet or the charges, and that is applicable to them. And if they have filed, probably it may be under consideration of the court. So far as this section is concerned, the issue out here is, as Mr. Azad also pointed out, that under 153A, religious animosity, which is being, the allegation is squarely covered under 153A. Disaffection or violence or incitement of violence, if it is at all there, because I have not heard the exact slogans, if it is at all there, then it has to be against a particular community, not against the government. There are different sections to deal with different kind of situations. So these two are uncomparable cases, and one has to understand the law before jumping to any conclusion. So I'm sure, because Mr. Ashwini Padhyay, being a senior lawyer from Supreme Court, has volunteered himself for interrogation. He went to the police station himself at 3 a.m. in the morning, and once he was joining the investigation and cooperating with the police, I don't think the arrest was warranted. Arrest is only warranted if you're running away from law or you hide. then the police starts searching for him. Somebody who goes to the police station, then I think maybe police has its own reasons, but this is a preliminary investigation.
Sir, arrest wasn't warranted. There are still people who are right now rotting in jail under sedition, leave alone sedition, under UAP as well, because they went and attended a protest rally somewhere in JNU or even in the likes of the Kanhaiya Kumar case, where till now it hasn't been proven whether he actually said what he did. But he's been charged with sedition. I'll come back to you, sir. Sir, I'm not here to defend. I'll come back to you. I want to bring in Sanjay Hegde in this conversation. Mr. Hegde, I want to pull you in this, because now, you know, the counter argument to this is that this seems like an eyewash because you've used it so selectively in other cases, a charge like sedition. Why not here? Sir, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Just because they've made a mistake in other cases doesn't mean that they have to continue to make the same mistake here. Having said that, while this was not sedition, and as Deshratan Nigam correctly says, it was not against the government by law established. Those are the words of the section. However, what it could conceivably come within the definition of terrorism or supporting terrorism under the UAPA. And let's make no mistake about it. The intent there was to terrorize a community, that if such things could be said within a kilometer of parliament, within a kilometer of the Prime Minister's house, that right in the citadel of Delhi, if this was the message that was going out, that when a certain community was cut down, they would be chanting religious slogans, which these rioters were also chanting. So this is so horrible. This is a moment for India to pause. You know, in Germany in the 1930s, you had a time when there was the Reichstag fire, and after that came the next moment when the ruling party there was entirely took over the state, and there was the mass Holocaust. If we do not clamp down on this speech, if we do not take effective action, then the message which will go is the same message that goes off in a lot of communal riots. Andar ki ye baat hai, police hamare saath hai.
All right, okay.
If that is the message that ever goes out, then please, even the center of Delhi is not safe anymore.
I'll bring in Yashovardhan Azad back into this conversation, because Mr. Azad, you know, that is what it's come down to. Because, okay, sedition isn't applicable in this. Sedition wasn't applicable in the many other cases that we've talked about over time. In this case, Mr. Hegde actually believes that there's a case for UAPA. But ultimately, it lies at the doorstep of the Delhi police. Do you reckon they've dealt with it well?
Well, I told you, Delhi police has not dealt with it well at all. In fact, there was no intimation of this protest, so-called protest. It was a bunch of lumpens, I would say, Hindu, Dal, or whatever it was. I don't know what it was protesting about. And just in the midst of it, if there are some goons raising slogans against a particular community, they should have been immediately arrested right there. In fact, they should have been arrested on the penal provisions immediately, 151, and then impose sections or whatever they were. As far as the, using UAPA and sedition, I'm very clear about it. You don't use UAPA and NSA and sedition against these small-time lumpens. They can be treated with the appropriate laws, and that is where Delhi police failed. Now, as Mr. Nigam says, if Mr. Upadhyay had gone to the police station himself, he should have been arrested. Because after all, this is an inflammatory slogan which has been raised. And therefore, all said and done, I would mark Delhi police failure on two counts. One is not to immediately take action over there. And secondly, for the arrests, we should have been named by now and the named FIR.
All right. Mr. Nigam, you wanted to come in on this. Go ahead, sir.
Again, let me answer. I've already given you an answer on 153A and 124A. The distinction I've already made. Now let us come to the UAPA. So far, the UAP in the case of Delhi riots are concerned, it's squarely covered under Section 15 of UAPA, which defines terrorist act, where you strike terror in the people or any section of the people in India or any foreign country by using bombs, dynamite, or other explosive substances, inflammable substances, or firearms. So all lethal weapons. This is not a case which falls squarely under this.
Sir, how did
so it has to be,
how did two girls from Pinjara Tod fall into that category?
Conspiracy. Conspiracy to do
Sir,
that.
this can also be conspiracy, no?
No, but
You're
please show
asking,
me-
you're asking.
No,
I
no.
don't even want to say what you're asking for. It's that inflammatory.
Let me explain. Let me
Please.
explain. You disturb my flow then. The fact remains that there the riots had taken place, fire bombs, pouring acids on the police force, and the DCP was also attacked. All those things had already taken place. So all those things should have taken place. Here, there was only speeches against a religion, particular religion. So it is not covered in the UAP.
So there is no. So there's no.
That is what I am saying. Different situations require different laws.
All right. Okay. Mr. Hegde, there was no, action before or after. No tangible action, which seems to suggest there was incitement.
Well, there was incitement to violence. There was certainly incitement to violence against a particular community. The effect of terrorism, was that community terrorized? You tell me that. So if you belong to that community and you could see that in your nation's capital, that was the slogan which was being raised and the police were doing nothing, I think it is arguably a case for UAPA to be invoked. Of course, I do not expect this government to do it. And we shall also see how far the investigation goes and whether the matter actually ends in a charge sheet.
All right.
Can I come in, Preeti, for 10 seconds?
Sir, 10 seconds. I need to close the show.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The fact is, the common perception of terrorism, the law does not work on the common perception of terrorism I or Sanjay Hegde has. But by the definition which is given under the UAPA, and it does not fall under by any stretch of imagination, it does not fall under it. He may say that the community got terrorized, but that terrorism is
okay,
is
so
not
that's
the
all that.
terrorism
I'm sorry,
which
sir. That was the 10 seconds I had, but ultimately it's the interpretation of law. And many would today ask if you can slap UAPA, sedition on journalists, on activists, then why not here? Because this was open call to arms to take against one particular community. And these are people who are caught on camera using exactly those slogans. Selective? We leave it for our viewers to decide. A quick break. Up next is Rahul Kavan.